The vast Mongolian steppe was a land of extremes. In the winter, it was a frozen wasteland, and in the summer, a hot, dry desert. But for the nomadic tribes that called it home, it was a land of opportunity and survival. On a particularly chilly night, under a canopy of shimmering stars, a baby's cry pierced the silence. In a modest gur, a traditional Mongolian tent, a child was born. His mother, Holon, cradled him in her arms, her eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and joy. The baby had a blood clot in his hand, a sign, the elders whispered, of a great leader. The child was named Temujin. His father, Yasugei, a respected leader of the Kiat tribe, looked at him with pride. "He will be strong," he murmured, holding the tiny hand that clenched the blood clot. As Temujin grew, it became evident that he was no ordinary child. He was curious, always asking questions about the world around him. He learned to ride a horse before most children his age and showed an uncanny ability to understand the ways of the wild. One day, while playing with his siblings near the river, Temujin noticed a hawk circling above. He watched, fascinated, as the bird dove down, snatching a fish from the water with impeccable precision. "That's how you must be," his father told him one evening, as they sat by the fire, sharp and swift, like the hawk. "The world is full of challenges, my son. Only the strongest survive." But the young Temujin's life was not without its hardships. The Mongolian steppe was a place of constant danger. Rival tribes often clashed, and the threat of invasion was ever present. One fateful day, while Yasugei was away on a hunting expedition, a group of enemy tribesmen attacked their camp. The peaceful evening was shattered by the sounds of screams and clashing swords. Holon, with baby Temujin in her arms, managed to escape, but their lives would never be the same. In the aftermath of the attack, with their home destroyed and their tribe scattered, Holon made a vow. "They may have taken everything from us," she whispered to her son, "but they cannot take away our spirit. You are destined for greatness, Temujin. Remember the hawk, be sharp and swift, and one day, explore the extraordinary life of Genghis Khan and his journey from a nomadic warrior to the founder of the largest contiguous empire in history." This B1 English level book unravels the strategic conquests, profound leadership, and enduring legacy of the Mongol Empire. You will rise above them all. And so, in the harshest of environments, amidst challenges and adversaries, the legend of Temujin, the future Genghis Khan, began to take shape. The birth of a warrior, destined to change the course of history. The Mongolian steppe, with its vast landscapes and unpredictable weather, was a challenging place for a child to grow up. For young Temujin, the challenges were even greater. The attack on his tribe had left them vulnerable, and the loss of their father meant that they had to rely on each other more than ever. Holon, with her indomitable spirit, tried her best to provide for her children. They moved from place to place, seeking shelter and sustenance. But the shadow of their past followed them, and they were often shunned by other tribes, seen as outcasts and a bad omen. Temujin's elder brother, Bektar, took on the role of the protector. He taught Temujin how to hunt, how to set up traps, and the importance of being vigilant. "Always be aware of your surroundings," he would say, his eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. But the steppe was not just a place of physical challenges. It was also a place of lessons, of understanding the delicate balance of nature and the importance of community. Temujin learned this the hard way when, one day, while trying to catch a rabbit, he found himself trapped in a pit. The walls of the pit were steep, and every time he tried to climb out, he would slip and fall back down. Hours passed, and with the cold night approaching, despair began to set in. But then, a familiar voice called out to him. "Bektar! Help!" Temujin shouted, his voice echoing in the pit. Using a long branch, Bektar managed to pull his younger brother out. As they sat by the fire that night, Bektar looked at Temujin with a stern expression. "You need to be more careful," he said. "We cannot afford to lose each other." It was a lesson that Temujin took to heart. He realized that in the unforgiving landscape of the steppe, one had to be both strong and smart. He began to observe the world around him more closely, learning from the animals, the plants, and the changing seasons. One day, while wandering near a stream, Temujin came across an old man fishing. The man, with his long white beard and deep-set eyes, looked like he had seen many winters. Intrigued, Temujin approached him. "Patience," the old man said, noticing the young boy's curiosity. "That's the key to fishing. And to life." Temujin sat with him for hours, listening to his stories and wisdom. The old man spoke of the importance of understanding one's environment, of adapting and persevering. "Life is full of challenges," he said. "But with patience and determination, you can overcome anything." As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the steppe, Temujin felt a renewed sense of purpose. The struggles of his childhood, the lessons he had learned, had shaped him into a resilient and determined young man. He knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, amidst the trials and tribulations of the Mongolian steppe, the legend of Temujin continued to grow, one struggle at a time. The vast Mongolian steppe was a patchwork of tribes, each with its own customs, leaders, and territories. While some tribes coexisted peacefully, others were in constant conflict, vying for dominance and resources. In this fragmented world, a young Temujin saw an opportunity. As he grew older, Temujin's reputation as a skilled warrior and tactician spread across the steppe. His experiences, both good and bad, had shaped him into a leader with a vision, to unite the Mongolian tribes under one banner. But this was no easy task. The tribes were deeply rooted in their traditions and wary of outsiders. To bring them together, Temujin knew he needed more than just brute force, he needed strategy and diplomacy. His first step was to forge alliances. He reached out to the leaders of neighboring tribes, offering them protection and shared resources in exchange for their loyalty. Some were skeptical, but others, seeing the potential benefits, agreed. One such leader was Jamuka, a childhood friend of Temujin. Their bond, forged in the fires of adversity, was strong. Together, they rallied their forces, combining their strengths to take on larger, more powerful tribes. But not all were willing to join Temujin's cause. The Merkit tribe, in particular, posed a significant threat. They had a long-standing feud with Temujin's family and were determined to stop his rise to power. One fateful night, as Temujin and his allies camped under the starlit sky, they were ambushed by the Merkits. The peaceful night was shattered by the sounds of war cries and clashing swords. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But Temujin, with his keen instincts and strategic mind, managed to turn the tide. Using the cover of darkness, he led a surprise attack on the Merkits' flank, catching them off guard and forcing them to retreat. The victory was a turning point. It sent a clear message to the other tribes: Temujin was a force to be reckoned with. Word of his conquests spread like wildfire, and one by one, tribes began to pledge their allegiance to him. But uniting the tribes was not just about military conquests. Temujin understood the importance of cultural integration. He encouraged intermarriage between tribes, adopted the customs and traditions of those he conquered, and established a code of law that applied to all. As the months turned into years, the once fragmented Mongolian steppe began to transform. Tribes that had once been bitter enemies now fought side by side, united by a common goal and a shared vision. And at the heart of this transformation was Temujin, a young warrior with a dream. A dream of a united Mongolia, where people lived in harmony and prosperity. A dream that was slowly becoming a reality. The winds of change were blowing across the Mongolian steppe. With each tribe that joined him, Temujin's power grew. But with power came enemies, and the most formidable of them all was the Taichi tribe, led by the cunning and ruthless Targatai. Targatai, envious of Temujin's rising influence, saw him as a threat to his own ambitions. He rallied a coalition of tribes, determined to put an end to Temujin's dream of a united Mongolia. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of the steppe. The chosen battleground was the sacred mountain of Burkhan Khaldun, a place of spiritual significance for the Mongols. Its towering peaks and dense forests provided a challenging terrain for warfare. As dawn broke, the two armies faced each other, the tension palpable. Temujin, atop his trusted steed, surveyed the enemy lines. He knew that this battle was not just about territory, it was about the future of Mongolia. The first arrow was fired, signaling the start of the battle. Warriors charged, swords clashed, and the air was filled with the cries of battle. The Taichi, with their superior numbers, seemed to have the upper hand. But Temujin had a plan. Using the mountain's terrain to his advantage, he ordered a section of his army to circle around and attack the enemy from the rear. It was a risky move, but if successful, it could turn the tide of the battle. As the hours passed, the fighting grew more intense. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, and it seemed as if the battle could go either way. But then, a horn sounded in the distance. It was Temujin's rear guard, launching their surprise attack. Caught off guard, the Taichi forces were thrown into disarray. Temujin, seizing the moment, led a charge straight into the heart of the enemy lines. The momentum had shifted. Targatai, realizing that the battle was lost, ordered a retreat. But Temujin was not about to let him escape. He pursued the fleeing enemy, ensuring that the threat of the Taichi was neutralized once and for all. As the dust settled, the magnitude of the victory became clear. The Battle of Burkhan Khaldun was not just a military triumph, it was a symbolic one. It cemented Temujin's reputation as a leader and a warrior, and it sent a clear message to the rest of the steppe: a new era was dawning. That evening, as the victorious army celebrated, Temujin climbed to the top of Burkhan Khaldun. He looked out over the vast steppe, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. The challenges, the struggles, the victories. He knew that there would be more battles to come, more challenges to overcome. But for now, he took a moment to savor the victory, to honor the memory of those who had fallen, and to dream of a united Mongolia. With the winds of victory at his back, Temujin, now recognized by many as Genghis Khan, looked beyond the Mongolian steppe. His vision was grand, an empire that stretched across continents. But to achieve this, he needed more than just a strong army, he needed a strategy. The world beyond Mongolia was vast and diverse. There were fortified cities, vast deserts, and powerful kingdoms. Each presented its own set of challenges. Genghis Khan knew that brute force alone would not be enough. He needed to be clever, adaptable, and always one step ahead of his adversaries. One of his first strategies was to gather intelligence. He employed a network of spies and scouts who would travel far and wide, gathering information about potential targets. They would learn about the local customs, the strengths and weaknesses of enemy armies, and the best routes for invasion. With this knowledge in hand, Genghis Khan could plan his campaigns with precision. He knew when to strike, where to strike, and how to strike. And when he did, it was with devastating effect. But military tactics were just one part of his strategy. Genghis Khan was also a master of psychological warfare. He understood the power of fear and reputation. Before attacking a city, he would often send envoys with a simple message: surrender and live, or resist and face certain destruction. Many cities, hearing tales of the Mongols' ferocity and seeing the vastness of their army, chose to surrender without a fight. Those that resisted were often made examples of, their walls breached and their populations subjugated. Yet, Genghis Khan was not just a conqueror, he was also a ruler. He knew that to maintain an empire, he needed to win the hearts and minds of the people. So, he adopted a policy of religious tolerance, allowing the conquered to practice their faiths freely. He also established trade routes, ensuring the flow of goods and ideas across his empire. Another key strategy was the integration of local leaders. Instead of replacing them with Mongols, he often allowed them to retain their positions, provided they swore allegiance to him. This not only ensured smoother governance but also reduced the chances of rebellion. As the months turned into years, the Mongol Empire expanded at an unprecedented rate. From the steppes of Central Asia to the gates of Europe and the heartlands of China, Genghis Khan's influence was felt everywhere. But with expansion came challenges. Each new territory, each new culture, presented its own set of complexities. Yet, through a combination of military prowess, strategic brilliance, and administrative acumen, Genghis Khan continued to build an empire that would become the largest contiguous land empire in history. And as he stood atop a hill, looking out over the vast lands he now ruled, Genghis Khan knew that this was just the beginning. The world was vast, and he was determined to make it all his own. In the heart of the Mongol Empire, amidst the vast landscapes and diverse cultures, a need arose for a unifying force. Genghis Khan, with his vision of a vast empire, recognized that military might alone wouldn't sustain his conquests. The empire needed a backbone, a set of principles to guide its people. Thus, the Yasa, the Mongol code of law, was born. The Yasa was more than just a set of rules. It was a reflection of the Mongol way of life. Crafted under the watchful eye of Genghis Khan, it was designed to bring order to the vast territories and diverse peoples of the empire. One evening, in a grand tent illuminated by flickering torches, Genghis Khan gathered his most trusted advisors. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. For our empire to stand the test of time, he began, we need a code that resonates with every soul, from the nomad of the steppe to the merchant of the Silk Road. The Yasa covered various aspects of life. There were laws about trade, about the conduct of the army, and about the rights and responsibilities of citizens. But more than that, it emphasized values like loyalty, honor, and justice. One of its most revolutionary aspects was its application. The Yasa was to be applied uniformly, regardless of one's status or origin. Whether a noble or a commoner, the law would treat all equally. This was a radical idea in a world where justice often favored the powerful. But the Yasa wasn't just about punishment, it was also about prevention. It aimed to create a society where disputes were resolved through dialogue rather than violence. To this end, it encouraged mediation and established a system where local leaders could adjudicate minor disputes. The introduction of the Yasa had profound effects. Crimes decreased, trade flourished, and a sense of unity began to permeate the empire. People from different backgrounds and beliefs felt they were part of a larger whole, bound by a common code. However, implementing the Yasa wasn't without challenges. There were those who resisted, clinging to old customs and traditions. But Genghis Khan was resolute. He knew that for the empire to thrive, the Yasa had to be its beating heart. Stories began to circulate about the fairness of the new code. There was the tale of a merchant who had been wronged and found justice under the Yasa. There was also the story of a nobleman who, despite his status, was punished for breaking the law. As the sun set on another day in the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan looked out over his lands, a sense of satisfaction filling him. The Yasa was more than just a code, it was a legacy. A legacy that would ensure that the empire he had built would endure, not just through might, but through justice, honor, and unity. The vast Mongol Empire, stretching from the steppes of Central Asia to the gates of Europe, was a tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions. But amidst this diversity, there was one thread that wove everything together: the Silk Road. This ancient trade route, named for the luxurious silk that traveled its path, was the lifeblood of the empire. It was a conduit for goods, ideas, and cultures, connecting the East with the West. But for Genghis Khan and his successors, the Silk Road was more than just a trade route, it was a tool of diplomacy and power. In the bustling markets of Samarkand, merchants from distant lands set up their stalls, their goods a testament to the road's reach. There were spices from India, ceramics from China, and textiles from Persia. The air was filled with a cacophony of languages, the sense of exotic foods, and the chime of coins changing hands. But the Silk Road was not always so vibrant. Before the rise of the Mongol Empire, it was fraught with dangers. Bandits lurked in the shadows, and rival kingdoms often disrupted trade. Genghis Khan, recognizing the road's potential, set out to change this. He established a system of relay stations and caravanserais, ensuring the safety and comfort of travelers. He also introduced a passport system, allowing merchants to travel freely across the empire's vast territories. But perhaps his most significant move was his approach to diplomacy. Understanding that trade thrived in peace, Genghis Khan forged alliances with neighboring kingdoms. He sent envoys bearing gifts, establishing relations based on mutual respect and benefit. In return, these kingdoms granted the Mongols safe passage and favorable trade terms. One such envoy was Rabban Bar Sauma, a monk who traveled from the Mongol capital of Karakoram to the courts of Europe. His journey, filled with tales of wonder and diplomacy, became legendary, symbolizing the Mongols' approach to foreign relations. But diplomacy was a two-way street. The Mongols also welcomed foreign envoys, treating them with honor and hospitality. These envoys brought with them not just goods, but also knowledge. They introduced the Mongols to new technologies, arts, and sciences, enriching the empire's cultural tapestry. As the years passed, the Silk Road flourished under Mongol rule. It became a symbol of the empire's might and vision. It was a testament to the Mongols' ability to adapt, to learn, and to forge connections. In the grand halls of Karakoram, Genghis Khan often met with merchants and envoys, listening to their tales of distant lands. He understood that the Silk Road's true value was not in the goods it carried, but in the bridges it built. And as caravans continued to traverse the vast landscapes, bearing goods and stories, the Silk Road became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of trade and diplomacy, and a legacy of an empire that understood the value of connections. The Silk Road, with its vast network stretching across continents, was more than just a pathway for trade. It was a bridge between civilizations, a conduit for the exchange of ideas, beliefs, and innovations. As caravans moved from one city to another, they carried with them not just goods, but also the essence of their cultures. In the bustling bazaars of Bokhara, one could hear the melodic tunes of Chinese instruments blending seamlessly with the rhythmic beats of Persian drums. Scholars from the Islamic world sat with monks from the East, engaging in deep discussions about philosophy, science, and the mysteries of the universe. One of the most significant cultural imports along the Silk Road was the spread of religions. Buddhism, which originated in India, found its way to the heart of China, thanks to the tireless efforts of missionaries who traveled the Silk Road. Monasteries and stupas began to dot the landscape, and tales of the Buddha were translated into local languages, resonating with the spiritual seekers of the East. Similarly, Islam, with its message of unity and brotherhood, spread eastwards, finding a home in the cities of Central Asia. The grand mosques, with their towering minarets, became centers of learning and culture, where scholars from different backgrounds came together in the pursuit of knowledge. But it wasn't just religions that were exchanged. The Silk Road also facilitated the spread of technological innovations. The art of papermaking, which originated in China, traveled westwards, revolutionizing the world of books and learning. Similarly, the magnetic compass, another Chinese invention, found its way to the navigators of the West, changing the course of maritime exploration. Art and architecture too were influenced by these cultural exchanges. In the palaces of Persia, one could find Chinese silks and ceramics adorning the walls. Similarly, the pagodas of China bore the influence of Persian and Central Asian designs. One of the most enduring tales of cultural exchange along the Silk Road is that of Marco Polo, the Venetian explorer. His journey through the Mongol Empire, and his subsequent accounts, provided the West with a glimpse into the wonders of the East. His tales of grand cities, exotic animals, and the wealth of the Mongol courts captivated the imagination of Europe, fueling further interest in exploration and trade. But the cultural exchanges were not always smooth. There were challenges, misunderstandings, and at times, conflicts. Yet, the Silk Road, with its ethos of trade and exchange, always found a way to bridge these divides. It fostered a spirit of curiosity and openness, encouraging people to learn from each other, to appreciate their differences, and to find common ground. As the sun set over the vast landscapes of the Silk Road, casting long shadows over the caravans that traversed its paths, one could sense the spirit of unity and exchange. It was a testament to the power of human connection, to the ability of cultures to come together, to learn, to grow, and to enrich each other. And in the annals of history, the Silk Road stands as a beacon of hope, a reminder of a time when the world was connected, not by technology, but by the shared spirit of curiosity, exploration, and mutual respect. In the vast expanse of the Mongol Empire, where tales of battles and conquests echoed, there was a story, quieter but equally powerful, that of Genghis Khan's beloved wife, Borte. Their tale began in the meadows of the Mongolian steppe. Young Temujin, not yet the great Khan, first laid eyes on Borte during a tribal gathering. Amidst the crowd, her radiant presence stood out, her eyes reflecting the vast skies above. It was a connection, immediate and profound. Their courtship was filled with stolen glances and whispered promises under the starlit sky. In Borte, Temujin found not just a partner, but a confidant, a pillar of strength. She was his anchor, grounding him amidst the storms of tribal politics and warfare. But their love was tested early on. Shortly after their marriage, in a twist of fate, Borte was kidnapped by a rival tribe, the Merkits. The news hit Temujin like a thunderbolt. The vast steppe, which once seemed full of promise, now felt cold and hostile. Determined to rescue his beloved, Temujin rallied his allies. Among them was his blood brother, Jamuka, and together they embarked on a perilous mission. The journey was fraught with danger, the shadow of the Merkits looming large. But Temujin's resolve was unshakable. Every step he took, every battle he fought, was fueled by his love for Borte. After what felt like an eternity, they located the Merkit camp. Under the cover of night, Temujin and his warriors launched a daring raid. The battle was fierce, but love proved to be the mightiest weapon. Borte was rescued, and the couple was reunited, their bond stronger than ever. As the years passed and Temujin rose to become Genghis Khan, Borte remained by his side, not just as a wife but as an advisor. She was his sounding board, offering counsel during his campaigns and conquests. Her wisdom and insight were invaluable, helping shape the destiny of the Mongol Empire. Together, they faced the challenges that came with ruling an empire. From diplomatic intrigues to internal conflicts, Borte's presence provided Genghis Khan with the balance and perspective he needed. She was the calm amidst the storm, the voice of reason in a world of chaos. And as they sat together, in the heart of their empire, looking out over the vast landscapes they ruled, they reflected on their journey. From the meadows of the Mongolian steppe to the corridors of power, their love had been the constant, guiding them through the highs and lows. In the annals of history, Genghis Khan is celebrated as a great conqueror, a leader who changed the course of history. But behind the legend was a man, a husband, whose love for his wife, Borte, was the foundation upon which his empire was built. The vast Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan, was a force to be reckoned with. But behind the scenes, in the intimate circles of the Khansgar, another story was unfolding, that of his sons, the heirs to his legacy. Genghis Khan had 4 sons, Joki, Chagatai, Ogidi, and Talyui. Each was unique, with strengths and weaknesses that would shape the future of the empire. Joki, the eldest, was a skilled warrior, his presence on the battlefield both commanding and fearsome. But his relationship with his father was strained. Rumors about his legitimacy, whispers from the past regarding Borte's kidnapping, cast a shadow over their bond. Yet, in the heat of battle, their differences faded, united by a common purpose. Chagatai, the second son, was known for his fiery temper and strict sense of justice. He was a stickler for the rules, often clashing with his brothers over matters of governance and the application of the yasa. Genghis Khan valued his sense of duty but was often called to mediate between Chagatai and his siblings. Ogidi, the third son, was the diplomat. Charismatic and affable, he had a knack for forging alliances and maintaining relationships. Genghis Khan often relied on him for diplomatic missions, recognizing his ability to navigate complex political landscapes with grace and tact. Talyui, the youngest, shared a special bond with his father. He was Genghis Khan's confidant, always by his side, learning and absorbing. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and trust, and it was Talyui who often bore the responsibility of managing the empire's heartland. As the years passed and Genghis Khan grew older, the question of succession loomed large. Who would take the reins of the empire? The decision was not just about choosing a leader, it was about ensuring the continuity of the Mongol legacy. Tensions simmered. Each son, with their loyalists, vied for a position of influence. The empire, vast and diverse, presented challenges that required a leader with vision, strength, and the ability to unite the various factions. In a dramatic assembly, with the leaders of the Mongol tribes in attendance, Genghis Khan made his decision. Ogidi, with his diplomatic skills and balanced temperament, was named his successor. The decision was met with a mix of approval and dissent, but Genghis Khan's word was final. The transition was not smooth. Power struggles, internal conflicts, and external threats tested the mettle of the new Khan. But the foundation that Genghis Khan had laid, built on the principles of unity, loyalty, and justice, ensured that the empire remained resilient. As the sun set on Genghis Khan's era, a new chapter in the Mongol saga began. The empire, under the leadership of his sons and their successors, would face new challenges, embark on new conquests, and continue to shape the course of history. And at the heart of it all was a family, bound by blood and destiny, carrying forward the legacy of the great Khan. The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan, had seen unparalleled growth. But the vast steppes of Central Asia held one more challenge for the great Khan, the formidable Khwarezm Empire. The Khwarezm Empire, with its grand cities and rich history, was a jewel of the Silk Road. Its ruler, Shah Muhammad II, was known for his ambition and pride. When Genghis Khan sent a trade caravan to establish diplomatic ties, he hoped for a peaceful alliance. But fate had other plans. The caravan was attacked, its goods seized, and its members imprisoned. This act of aggression was a direct affront to the Mongol Empire. Enraged, Genghis Khan sent envoys to demand an explanation. Instead of diplomacy, the Shah responded with defiance, executing the envoys and declaring his intent to resist any Mongol advance. The stage was set for a confrontation of epic proportions. Genghis Khan, known for his strategic brilliance, began his campaign with meticulous planning. He gathered intelligence, studying the strengths and weaknesses of the Khwarezm defenses. He knew that a direct assault on their fortified cities would be costly. Instead, he opted for a strategy of divide and conquer. Using a series of feints and diversions, he drew the Khwarezm forces out, stretching their defenses thin. Then, with lightning speed, Mongol cavalry units struck at key points, sowing chaos and confusion. City after city fell to the Mongols. The walls of Bokhara, Samarkand, and Urgench, once thought impregnable, crumbled under the relentless Mongol onslaught. The Khwarezm soldiers, brave and fierce, fought valiantly, but the tide was against them. Shah Muhammad II, realizing the gravity of the situation, attempted to rally his forces. But internal strife and the sheer force of the Mongol war machine proved insurmountable. Desperate and defeated, the Shah fled, leaving his empire in ruins. But the conquest was not just about territory. Genghis Khan, always the strategist, recognized the value of the Khwarezm Empire's vast resources and knowledge. He incorporated their scholars, engineers, and artisans into the Mongol fold, ensuring that their skills and expertise were put to use in the service of the empire. As the dust settled, the once mighty Khwarezm Empire was no more. Its grand cities, its rich culture, and its proud history were now part of the Mongol legacy. Genghis Khan, standing atop the walls of Samarkand, looked out over the lands he had conquered. The winds of the steppe carried with them tales of his victories, tales that would be told for generations to come. But amidst the celebrations, there was also reflection. Wars came with a cost, and the scars of battle were not easily healed. The challenge now was to integrate the Khwarezm territories, to ensure that the people, once foes, became loyal subjects of the Mongol Empire. And as the sun set on another chapter in the Mongol saga, the journey continued, with new horizons, new challenges, and the promise of a future shaped by the vision of the great Khan. The city of Samarkand, with its towering walls and gleaming spires, stood as a symbol of the Khwarezm Empire's might and grandeur. Known as the Pearl of the East, it was a city of scholars, merchants, and artisans. But as the Mongol horde approached, a shadow of uncertainty loomed over its inhabitants. Genghis Khan, having conquered vast stretches of the Khwarezm Empire, had set his sights on Samarkand. He knew that capturing this jewel would be a significant blow to the Khwarezm morale and solidify his dominance in the region. As the Mongol army camped outside the city walls, the atmosphere inside Samarkand was tense. The city's defenders, led by the valiant General Karen, prepared for the impending siege. Arrows were sharpened, walls reinforced, and supplies stockpiled. The people of Samarkand, from the elderly to the young, rallied together, determined to defend their home. The siege began with the Mongols launching a barrage of arrows and flaming projectiles. The sky turned dark, filled with the whistling of arrows and the roar of trebuchets. But the walls of Samarkand, built over generations, stood firm. Days turned into nights and nights into days, but the city did not yield. Genghis Khan, known for his patience and strategy, decided to employ a different tactic. He ordered the diversion of a nearby river, aiming to flood the city's defenses. The people of Samarkand watched in horror as water began to seep through their fortifications. General Khan, realizing the gravity of the situation, rallied his troops. In a daring move, he led a sortie against the Mongol lines, hoping to break the siege. The battle that ensued was fierce. The air was thick with dust and the clang of swords. For a moment, it seemed as if the defenders of Samarkand might turn the tide. But the Mongol army, with its disciplined ranks and superior tactics, managed to repel the attack. General Khan, wounded and exhausted, was captured. The spirit of the Samarkand defenders was broken. Seeing the inevitable, the city's elders approached Genghis Khan, offering their surrender. The great Khan, respecting the valor of the Samarkand defenders, accepted their terms. He promised safety for the inhabitants and ensured that the city's cultural heritage would be preserved. As the Mongol flags were raised over Samarkand, a new chapter began. The city, once a bastion of the Khwarezm Empire, was now a part of the Mongol dominion. But instead of destruction, Genghis Khan brought with him order and stability. Trade flourished, scholars were respected, and the city continued to shine as a beacon of culture and learning. The siege of Samarkand was not just a military victory, it was a testament to the Mongols' ability to adapt, innovate, and persevere. And for the people of Samarkand, it marked the beginning of a new era, one of peace, prosperity, and unity under the Mongol banner. To the east of the vast Mongol Empire lay the ancient and formidable lands of China. With its sprawling cities, intricate bureaucracy, and a history that spanned millennia, China was a prize that Genghis Khan deeply coveted. The Great Wall, a monumental structure stretching thousands of miles, stood as a testament to China's strength and determination. But to Genghis Khan, it was a challenge, a barrier to be overcome in his quest for domination. The Mongols' first foray into China was met with resistance. The Jin dynasty, ruling the northern parts of China, was a formidable adversary. Their army, equipped with advanced weaponry and trained in the art of war, was ready to defend their homeland. Genghis Khan, ever the strategist, knew that a direct assault on the Great Wall would be costly. Instead, he employed a tactic that had served him well in the past: divide and conquer. He sent small raiding parties to probe the wall's defenses, looking for weaknesses and drawing the Jin army out. In one such skirmish, a young Mongol warrior named Subutai showcased his brilliance. Using a series of feints and diversions, he managed to breach a section of the wall, allowing the Mongol forces to pour in. The battles that followed were intense. The plains of China echoed with the sounds of clashing swords, galloping horses, and the cries of warriors. The Jin army, with their disciplined formations and advanced tactics, put up a fierce resistance. But the Mongols' mobility, archery skills, and sheer determination gave them an edge. City after city fell to the Mongol onslaught. But it wasn't just the military victories that marked their progress. Genghis Khan, recognizing the value of China's rich culture and knowledge, ensured that scholars, artisans, and craftsmen were spared. They were integrated into the Mongol Empire, their skills harnessed for the greater good. However, the conquest of China was not without challenges. The terrain, varying from vast plains to rugged mountains, tested the mettle of the Mongol army. The weather, with its scorching summers and freezing winters, added to their woes. But under Genghis Khan's leadership, they persevered, adapting and learning from each encounter. A significant turning point came with the siege of Zhengdu, the capital of the Jin dynasty. The city, with its towering walls and deep moats, was a fortress. But the Mongols, using a combination of siege warfare, diplomacy, and psychological tactics, managed to breach its defenses. The fall of Zhengdu marked the beginning of the end for the Jin dynasty. As Genghis Khan stood atop the city walls, looking out over the vast lands he had conquered, he knew that this was just the beginning. China, with its southern Song dynasty and its myriad of challenges, awaited. But for now, he had sent a clear message to the world: the Mongol Empire was a force to be reckoned with, and its march to greatness was unstoppable. The Great Wall of China, a marvel of ancient engineering, snaked its way across the rugged landscapes, standing as a silent guardian of the Middle Kingdom. For centuries, it had deterred invaders, its imposing presence a testament to China's will to defend its borders. But for Genghis Khan and his Mongol horde, it represented the ultimate challenge. Whispers of the wall's grandeur had reached the Mongol camps long before they saw it. Tales of its vastness, of watchtowers that touched the sky, and of the brave souls who patrolled it day and night. But Genghis Khan was undeterred. To him, every challenge was an opportunity. As the Mongol army approached the wall, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. The wall, stretching as far as the eye could see, stood tall and formidable. Its stones, weathered by time, bore the marks of countless battles. But it wasn't just the physical barrier that the Mongols had to contend with. The Great Wall was also a psychological fortress. Its very presence was meant to instill fear, to convey the message that China was impregnable. Genghis Khan, ever the tactician, called for a council of his generals. They gathered around a large map, plotting and planning. Direct assault was ruled out, the wall was too well defended. They needed a strategy that combined cunning with brute force. The decision was made to probe the wall's defenses, to look for weak points. Small detachments of Mongol warriors were dispatched, each with a specific section of the wall to study. They would engage the defenders, test their resolve, and gather intelligence. One such detachment, led by the young and fearless Jeeb, discovered a section of the wall that was less guarded. Using the cover of night, they scaled the wall using ropes and grappling hooks. A small breach was created, a foothold established. Word of this success reached Genghis Khan, who saw an opportunity. He ordered a diversionary attack on a different section of the wall, drawing the bulk of the Chinese defenders away. Meanwhile, Jeeb and his warriors worked tirelessly to widen the breach. The plan worked. As dawn broke, the Mongol army poured through the breach, their war cries echoing across the plains. The defenders of the wall, caught off guard, were overwhelmed. But Genghis Khan knew that the conquest of the wall was symbolic. He ordered that no harm be done to the structure. Instead, he wanted it to stand as a testament to Mongol ingenuity and determination. The capture of the Great Wall was a turning point in the Mongols' eastern expedition. It sent a clear message to the Chinese kingdoms: the Mongols were here to stay, and no wall, no matter how grand, could stop them. As the sun set, casting a golden hue on the stones of the Great Wall, Genghis Khan stood atop a watchtower, looking out at the vast lands beyond. The wall, once a challenge, was now a conquered monument, a stepping stone in the Mongols' relentless march to greatness. In the vast expanse of the Mongol Empire, where distances stretched for thousands of miles and terrains varied from dense forests to barren steppes, communication was a challenge. But Genghis Khan, ever the visionary, recognized the importance of staying connected. His solution? The YAM, an intricate and efficient postal system. The concept was simple yet revolutionary. Across the empire, at regular intervals, relay stations were established. These stations, known as orts, were equipped with fresh horses, provisions, and messengers ready to carry dispatches at a moment's notice. A messenger, carrying a leather pouch sealed with the Khan's insignia, would gallop from one ort to the next. There, without wasting a moment, he would hand over the dispatches to a fresh messenger, who would continue the journey. This relay system ensured that messages traveled at breakneck speed, covering vast distances in record time. But the yam was not just about speed, it was about security and reliability. The messengers, hand-picked for their loyalty and skill, were the backbone of the system. They braved harsh weather, treacherous terrains, and potential threats to ensure that the dispatches reached their destination. To harm a messenger was considered a grave offense, punishable by death. The success of the yam was evident. Orders from the Khan's court in Karakoram could reach the farthest corners of the empire in a matter of days. Diplomatic messages, military dispatches, and trade documents flowed seamlessly, knitting the vast empire together. But the benefits of the yam extended beyond mere communication. It facilitated trade, as merchants could get real-time information about markets and prices. It promoted cultural exchange, as scholars, artists, and musicians traveled along with the yam routes, sharing their knowledge and skills. And most importantly, it fostered a sense of unity, a feeling that, despite the vast distances, the empire was one cohesive entity. The yam also had its share of challenges. Maintaining the relay stations, ensuring the safety of the messengers, and coordinating the flow of information required meticulous planning and governance. But under the Khan's leadership, the system thrived, becoming a model for future empires. As the sun set over the Mongol steppes, the silhouette of a lone messenger could be seen, galloping towards the horizon. His leather pouch, bearing the Khan's seal, bounced rhythmically against his side. The wind carried with it the sound of hoofbeats, a testament to the relentless spirit of the yam, the pulse of the Mongol Empire. In the annals of history, the Mongol conquests are often celebrated for their military prowess. But it was innovations like the yam, a symbol of governance and vision, that truly defined the legacy of Genghis Khan and his successors. In the heart of the Mongol Empire, a unique phenomenon was unfolding. While empires of the past often imposed their beliefs on the conquered, the Mongols chose a different path. Under the vast sky of the steppes, Genghis Khan envisioned an empire where all faiths could coexist. This vision of religious tolerance would become one of the cornerstones of Mongol governance. In the bustling markets of Karakoram, the empire's capital, one could witness this harmony in action. A Buddhist monk, deep in meditation, sat beside a Muslim trader reciting his daily prayers. Nearby, a Christian missionary shared tales of distant lands with a curious shaman. The air was filled with a symphony of chants, prayers, and songs, each echoing the beliefs of diverse peoples. Genghis Khan, having encountered various faiths during his conquests, recognized the power of religion as a unifying force. Instead of suppressing different beliefs, he embraced them. Religious leaders were given privileges, exempted from taxes, and often consulted on matters of governance. This policy not only ensured peace within the empire but also attracted scholars, doctors, and artisans from different religious backgrounds, enriching the Mongol court. But religious tolerance was just one aspect of the Mongols' innovative governance. The vastness of the empire, with its diverse cultures and traditions, posed administrative challenges. To address this, Genghis Khan introduced a system of decentralized governance. The empire was divided into regions, each governed by local leaders who were given autonomy but were accountable to the central authority. This system was bolstered by the Yasa, a code of laws introduced by Genghis Khan. While much of its content remains a mystery, it's known that the Yasa covered everything from criminal justice to trade regulations. It emphasized loyalty, discipline, and respect for authority. The laws were strictly enforced, ensuring order and justice throughout the empire. Another administrative innovation was the census system. For effective governance and taxation, the Mongols needed accurate data. Officials were dispatched to every corner of the empire, counting populations and cataloging resources. This information was crucial for planning military campaigns, infrastructure projects, and trade routes. As the empire expanded, so did its administrative challenges. But the Mongols, with their adaptability and vision, turned these challenges into opportunities. They adopted the best practices from the cultures they encountered, integrating them into their governance model. In the grand halls of the Mongol court, where decisions that shaped the fate of millions were made, one could sense the spirit of innovation and tolerance. Advisors from different faiths and backgrounds debated, discussed, and deliberated, their diverse perspectives enriching the discourse. The legacy of the Mongol governance, with its emphasis on religious tolerance and administrative innovation, stands as a testament to their vision. In a world often torn by strife and conflict, the Mongol Empire shone as a beacon of harmony, unity, and progress. In the heart of the Mongol Empire, as the embers of campfires danced under the vast starry sky, tales of Genghis Khan were whispered from one generation to the next. These were not just stories of battles and conquests, but of a man, a leader, whose legacy was woven into the very fabric of the empire. One such tale spoke of a young Temujin, not yet the great Khan, lost in the vastness of the Mongolian steppe. As the biting cold threatened to overcome him, a lone wolf appeared, guiding him to safety. This encounter, many believed, was a sign from the heavens, marking Temujin for greatness. Another story told of the Khan's legendary encounter with a humble hermit. Seeking wisdom, Genghis Khan approached the hermit and asked, "What is the meaning of life?" The hermit, looking deep into the Khan's eyes, replied, "To live is to conquer, not lands or people, but oneself." This lesson, it was said, stayed with the Khan, guiding his actions and decisions. But not all tales were of mysticism and wisdom. Some spoke of the Khan's fierce loyalty to his friends and allies. Like the story of Jamuka, his blood brother. Despite their differences and eventual rivalry, when Jamuka was captured by enemies, Genghis Khan, upon hearing of his brother's fate, rode for days and nights, battling foes, to rescue him. Their bond, tested by time and circumstance, was a testament to the Khan's unwavering loyalty. Then there were tales of the Khan's legendary encounters with foes. One such story spoke of a defiant warrior who challenged the Khan to single combat. As the two locked eyes, the earth trembled, and the skies darkened. But instead of drawing his sword, the Khan extended his hand, offering peace. The warrior, humbled by this gesture, knelt and pledged his allegiance. This tale was a reminder of the Khan's belief in diplomacy over conflict. But of all the tales, the most cherished were those that spoke of the Khan's love for his homeland. It was said that every year, during the spring festival, Genghis Khan would retreat to the sacred Burkhan mountain. There, amidst the whispering winds and ancient spirits, he would reconnect with his roots, drawing strength and inspiration for the challenges ahead. As these tales were shared, passed down from elders to the young, they became more than just stories. They were lessons, values, and ideals that defined the Mongol way of life. They spoke of honor, loyalty, wisdom, and courage. They celebrated the human spirit, its ability to dream, to overcome, and to achieve greatness. In the annals of history, Genghis Khan is remembered as a conqueror, a ruler who forged one of the largest empires the world has ever seen. But in the hearts of his people, by the flickering light of campfires, he lived on as a legend, a hero, whose tales would inspire generations to come. The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan and his successors, was not just a vast expanse of conquered lands. It was an entity that left an indelible mark on world history, its ripples felt even today. As the first rays of dawn broke over the vast steppes, traders from distant lands would set forth on the Silk Road, a network of trade routes rejuvenated and secured by the Mongols. This wasn't just a path for goods, it was a highway of ideas, cultures, and innovations. The spices of the East met the textiles of the West, and in this exchange, civilizations flourished. But the Mongol impact wasn't limited to trade. In the grand courts of the empire, scholars, scientists, and artists from different corners of the world gathered. Persian astronomers conversed with Chinese mathematicians. Arab doctors shared their knowledge with Mongol herbalists. It was a melting pot of knowledge, a renaissance that predated the European one. The Mongol administrative system, with its emphasis on meritocracy, was another legacy. Positions of power and responsibility were often given based on skill and talent, rather than birthright. This system, revolutionary at the time, ensured that the vast empire, with its myriad cultures and traditions, was governed efficiently. Then there was the Mongol approach to religious freedom. At a time when religious conflicts were the norm, the Mongol Empire stood as a beacon of tolerance. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and followers of Tengrism coexisted peacefully, their beliefs respected and protected. This policy of religious tolerance, historians believe, laid the groundwork for the modern principles of secularism and coexistence. But the Mongol legacy was not without its dark chapters. Their campaigns, marked by swift and often brutal conquests, left scars on the lands they overran. Cities were razed, populations displaced, and cultures forever altered. Yet, even in these acts, the Mongols reshaped the course of nations. Empires crumbled, new kingdoms rose, and the geopolitical landscape of continents was redrawn. As the sun set on the Mongol Empire, its legacy lived on. The trade routes they secured facilitated the age of exploration. The ideas they spread sowed the seeds of the Enlightenment. The tales of their conquests, both awe-inspiring and cautionary, became legends that shaped the narratives of nations. In the annals of history, empires rise and fall, leaders come and go, but few leave an impact as profound as the Mongols. Their legacy, a blend of innovation, governance, and cultural exchange, serves as a testament to the power of vision, determination, and the human spirit. In the quiet corners of history classrooms, amidst the pages of dusty tomes, the story of the Mongol Empire is recounted, not just as a chapter of conquests but as a saga that forever changed the course of world history. The vast Mongol Empire, stretching from the steppes of Central Asia to the gates of Europe, stood as a testament to the vision and prowess of Genghis Khan and his descendants. But as the saying goes, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Beneath the surface of this sprawling empire, cracks began to appear, threatening to shatter the legacy of the great Khan. The sun was setting over Karakoram, casting long shadows over the imperial palace. Inside, a heated argument was unfolding. Two princes, both grandsons of Genghis Khan, were locked in a bitter dispute. Their disagreement was not just about territory or wealth, it was about the very soul of the empire. Joki, the eldest, believed in maintaining the Mongols' nomadic traditions, emphasizing the importance of the steppes and the old ways. On the other hand, Kublai, influenced by the cultures of the conquered lands, envisioned a more settled empire, with cities, trade, and governance at its heart. This ideological clash was just the tip of the iceberg. As the empire expanded, incorporating diverse cultures and peoples, the challenges of governance grew. The vast distances, differing traditions, and local loyalties made centralized control difficult. The once unified Mongol leadership began to fracture, with regional leaders, or Khans, asserting their autonomy. The situation was further exacerbated by disputes over succession. Genghis Khan's death had left a power vacuum, and while his successors tried to fill it, the question of legitimate leadership lingered. Multiple claimants to the throne, each backed by their factions, led to a series of civil wars. These conflicts, often brutal and devastating, drained the empire's resources and morale. But internal conflicts weren't just about power and leadership. They were also about identity. The Mongols, once proud nomads of the steppes, were now rulers of vast territories, from the deserts of Persia to the rice fields of China. This rapid expansion and assimilation led to an identity crisis. Questions arose: were they still the horse-riding warriors of the steppes? Or had they become the very civilizations they had conquered? As these conflicts raged on, the empire's enemies watched, waiting for an opportunity. They sensed the Mongols' vulnerability, and plots and rebellions began to take shape on the fringes of the empire. In the heart of the Mongol court, amidst the grandeur and splendor, a sense of unease prevailed. The empire, which had once seemed invincible, was showing signs of strain. The dream of a united Mongol dominion, passed down from Genghis Khan, was at risk. As night descended on Karakoram, the once lively streets grew silent. But in the shadows, whispers continued, whispers of dissent, ambition, and a looming downfall. The vast Mongol Empire, which once stretched from the shores of the Pacific to the heart of Europe, was a testament to the vision and leadership of Genghis Khan. But as the empire grew, so did its challenges. And amidst these challenges, a shadow loomed large, the death of a leader that would shake the very foundations of the Mongol world. The skies over Karakoram were overcast, a somber gray that mirrored the mood of the city. Whispers had begun to circulate that the great Khan, the empire's unifying force, was gravely ill. In the bustling markets, conversations halted as people exchanged worried glances. In the grand palaces, advisors and generals huddled in hushed discussions. The Khan, in his final days, was confined to his chambers, attended to by his closest family and trusted shamans. They tried various remedies, from ancient Mongol potions to exotic treatments brought from distant lands. But the leader's health continued to decline. Outside the Khan's tent, warriors stood vigil, their faces etched with concern. The Khan was not just a leader, he was a symbol of Mongol pride, strength, and unity. His potential death threatened to create a power vacuum, with various factions vying for control. As days turned into nights, the Khan's condition worsened. He called for his sons, sharing with them his final wishes and vision for the empire. He spoke of unity, of the importance of keeping the Mongol tribes together. He warned of external threats, of empires and kingdoms waiting for a sign of Mongol weakness. But most importantly, he emphasized the value of peace within the empire, urging his successors to avoid internal conflicts. The fateful night arrived. A chilling wind swept across the steppes, and the campfires around Karakoram flickered. Inside the Khan's tent, the atmosphere was heavy with grief. As the leader took his final breath, a profound silence enveloped the empire. The news of the Khan's death spread like wildfire. From the vast deserts of Persia to the dense forests of Russia, the Mongol world mourned. Rituals and ceremonies were held in his honor, with warriors, scholars, and common folk alike paying their respects. But amidst the mourning, the undercurrents of power struggles began to emerge. The Khan's sons, each commanding their armies and territories, were now in contention for the empire's throne. Allies were sought, promises made, and in some cases, threats issued. The empire stood at a crossroads. Would the Khan's successors heed his final words, ensuring the empire's unity and prosperity? Or would their ambitions lead to civil wars, fragmenting the once mighty Mongol Empire? In the annals of history, the death of a leader often marks a turning point, a moment of reckoning. For the Mongol Empire, the death of their great Khan was such a moment. It was a test of their resilience, unity, and the strength of their legacy. As the winds of change blew across the Mongol steppes, the empire braced itself for the challenges ahead, its fate hanging in the balance. The vast Mongol Empire, still reeling from the loss of its visionary leader, Genghis Khan, stood at a pivotal juncture. The winds of change whispered tales of new beginnings, and at the heart of this new chapter was Ogdi, the chosen successor, the son of Genghis. Karakorum, the empire's capital, was abuzz with anticipation. The grand coronation ceremony was to be held, and dignitaries from all corners of the empire had gathered. The air was thick with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Would Ogdi be able to fill the colossal void left by his father? As Ogdi stepped onto the dais, dressed in regal Mongol attire, the crowd fell silent. With the ceremonial white felt banner in hand, he took the oath to serve and protect the empire. The moment was symbolic, marking the transition from the era of Genghis to that of his successors. Ogdi's reign began with challenges. The vast empire, with its diverse cultures and vast territories, demanded a firm yet understanding hand. Ogdi, having learned from his father, approached governance with a blend of Mongol traditions and newfound administrative strategies. He expanded the empire's infrastructure, building roads, bridges, and, most notably, a grand capital city that showcased the empire's wealth and culture. But Ogdi's reign wasn't just about construction and administration. He was a warrior at heart, and under his leadership, the Mongol military campaigns surged forward. The empire's boundaries expanded further, with notable conquests in Persia, China, and the Russian steppes. His generals, loyal and battle-hardened, executed his strategies with precision, striking fear into the hearts of adversaries. Yet, the weight of leadership was not without its strains. Ogdi grappled with internal conflicts, particularly the ambitions of his siblings and cousins, each eyeing a piece of the vast Mongol pie. Diplomacy, alliances, and, at times, force were tools Ogdi employed to maintain the delicate balance of power within the Mongol elite. One of the hallmarks of Ogdi's reign was his commitment to his father's vision of religious tolerance. He continued to patronize various religious groups, ensuring that the empire remained a melting pot of beliefs and ideas. Scholars, artists, and traders from different faiths found patronage in Ogdi's court, leading to a period of cultural and intellectual flourishing. However, like all leaders, Ogdi had his flaws. His fondness for luxury and, notably, his excessive drinking, raised eyebrows. Rumors and whispers about his indulgences spread through the empire, leading to murmurs of dissent. As the sun set on Ogdi's reign, the Mongol Empire, larger and more influential than ever, reflected on this new chapter. Ogdi, with his strengths and weaknesses, had left an indelible mark. The empire had grown, cultures had merged, and the Mongol legacy had evolved. In the grand tapestry of Mongol history, Ogdi's reign was a vibrant thread, weaving tales of conquest, governance, challenges, and human frailties. The vast Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Ogdi Khan, had already witnessed significant expansions. But the thirst for conquest was far from quenched. The horizon beckoned, and the Mongol horsemen, with their arrows nocked and spirits high, were ready to gallop into new territories. The dawn at the Mongol camp was always a sight to behold. Thousands of tents dotted the landscape, and the air was filled with the sounds of horses neighing and warriors preparing for the day's march. At the heart of this bustling activity was the War Council, where the empire's top generals and strategists gathered, maps spread out, discussing their next move. The target was clear: Europe. The vast continent, with its rich cities and fertile lands, was the next frontier. But this was no ordinary campaign. The European kingdoms, with their fortified castles and trained knights, presented a unique challenge. The Mongols, however, were undeterred. Their lightning-fast cavalry tactics, unmatched archery skills, and unparalleled discipline made them a formidable force. The first encounters with the European armies were eye-opening for both sides. The Mongols, with their hit-and-run tactics, created chaos in the European ranks. The heavy European cavalry, clad in armor, was no match for the nimble Mongol horsemen. City after city fell, and tales of the Mongols' ferocity spread like wildfire. But conquest was not just about battles and sieges. The Mongols, true to their legacy, were also master diplomats. They forged alliances, often marrying into local royalty, ensuring a smoother transition of power. They also adopted local customs and practices, integrating themselves into the fabric of the conquered lands. One of the most notable campaigns was the invasion of the Hungarian plains. The vast open lands were perfect for the Mongol cavalry. The Hungarian knights, despite their bravery, were outmaneuvered and outclassed. The victory was decisive, and the Mongol flag fluttered over yet another territory. However, the European campaign was not without its challenges. The Mongols faced resistance, not just from armies, but also from the terrain and climate. The cold European winters, the dense forests, and the unfamiliar diseases tested the Mongol resolve. Amidst these conquests, a significant event back home changed the course of the campaign. News arrived of the Great Khan's death. The Mongol leaders, bound by tradition, decided to return to elect the next Khan. The European campaign, which had started with a bang, ended with a retreat. But the impact of the Mongol invasions was profound. The European kingdoms, having witnessed the might of the Mongol war machine, re-evaluated their military strategies. Trade routes opened up, and cultural exchanges began. The Mongols' brief foray into Europe left an indelible mark on its history. As the Mongol horsemen rode back to the steppes, their heads held high, they carried with them not just the spoils of war but also tales of distant lands, of knights and castles, of victories and challenges. The empire had expanded, and the legacy of the Great Khan continued. In the annals of history, the Mongol conquests stand out, not just for their military prowess but for their ability to adapt, integrate, and leave a lasting impact on the conquered lands. The vast Mongol Empire, known for its conquests and sprawling territories, had roots that ran deep into the heart of the Central Asian steppes. Here, away from the grandeur of palaces and the hustle of cities, the true essence of the Mongol spirit thrived in its nomadic lifestyle. The endless steppes, with their rolling hills and open skies, were a canvas upon which the Mongol way of life was painted. As dawn broke, the horizon would come alive with the silhouettes of yurts, the traditional Mongol tents. Made of felt and wood, these portable homes were a marvel of ancient engineering, designed to withstand the harsh steppe climate. Within these yurts, the daily life of a Mongol family unfolded. The women, the backbone of the nomadic household, would be busy with chores. They milked the mares, making the traditional drink arag, and prepared meals on the central hearth. The men, on the other hand, tended to the herds. Horses, sheep, and goats dotted the landscape, their grazing patterns dictating the rhythm of Mongol life. The bond between the Mongols and their horses was legendary. These sturdy and loyal creatures were not just beasts of burden, they were companions, integral to the Mongol identity. Young children, almost as soon as they could walk, were taught to ride. The sight of a young Mongol rider, galloping fearlessly across the plains, was a testament to this deep-rooted bond. But the nomadic lifestyle was not without its challenges. The Mongols were at the mercy of nature's whims. Harsh winters, with biting cold winds, tested their resilience. Droughts and storms were frequent uninvited guests. Yet, the Mongols, with their indomitable spirit, faced these challenges head-on. Their deep knowledge of the land, passed down through generations, helped them navigate these hardships. Migration was a key aspect of this lifestyle. The Mongols, in their constant quest for fresh pastures, would pack up their yurts and belongings, forming caravans that snaked across the steppes. These migrations, often involving entire clans, were a sight to behold. Elders, children, livestock, and warriors, all moved in harmony, a dance choreographed by nature and necessity. Evenings on the steppe were a time for community and storytelling. Around roaring campfires, under a canopy of stars, tales of ancestors, battles, and ancient traditions were shared. Songs were sung, dances performed, and the rich tapestry of Mongol culture came alive. This nomadic lifestyle, with its rhythms and rituals, was the foundation upon which the Mongol Empire was built. The skills honed on the steppes, horsemanship, resilience, and a deep understanding of nature were the very skills that made the Mongols formidable warriors and astute rulers. As the embers of the campfires died down and the steppes plunged into the embrace of night, the Mongol spirit, undying and eternal, whispered tales of a way of life that was simple yet profound, challenging yet rewarding. Beyond the vast conquests and the tales of warrior prowess, the heart of the Mongol Empire beat in rhythm with its rich traditions and celebrations. These events, deeply rooted in the nomadic lifestyle and the changing seasons of the steppes, painted a vibrant picture of Mongol culture. As spring arrived, bringing with it the promise of new life, the Mongols celebrated Naadam, the most anticipated festival of the year. The vast plains would come alive with color and excitement. Families from distant corners of the steppes would travel, setting up their yurts in large circles, creating temporary villages dedicated to festivities. Naadam, often referred to as the Three Games of Men, showcased the core skills of Mongol life: wrestling, horse racing, and archery. Young and old, men and women, participated with fervor, each hoping to earn honor and recognition. The wrestling matches were a test of strength and technique. Wrestlers, adorned in traditional attire, would lock arms, their eyes focused, waiting for the perfect moment to make a move. The goal was simple: unbalance your opponent and bring him to the ground. Victorious wrestlers were celebrated with songs and dances, their achievements becoming tales of legend. Horse racing, however, was not just a test of speed but of endurance. Covering vast distances across the steppes, young riders showcased their bond with their horses, a relationship nurtured since childhood. The sight of these riders, silhouetted against the vast horizon, was a testament to the Mongols' love for their most cherished companion. Archery, the third pillar of Naadam, was a display of precision and focus. Archers, using bows crafted from horn and wood, aimed at distant targets. Each shot was accompanied by chants and cheers, the tension palpable as arrows soared through the air. But Naadam was not just about competition. It was a time for families to reunite, for old friends to reminisce, and for young hearts to find love. Traditional songs echoed across the plains, dances were performed, and stories from the past were shared. Food played a central role in these celebrations. Large cauldrons bubbled with hearty stews, and the aroma of grilled meats filled the air. Special dishes, prepared using recipes passed down through generations, were shared and savored. As night descended, the celebrations took on a spiritual tone. Shamans, the spiritual leaders of the Mongol community, performed rituals, invoking the spirits of the ancestors and seeking blessings for the year ahead. The rhythmic beats of drums, the haunting melodies of throat singing, and the mesmerizing dances of the shamans created an atmosphere of reverence and mystique. These traditions and celebrations, passed down through the ages, were the threads that wove the fabric of Mongol society. They were a reminder of the empire's rich heritage, a bridge between the past and the present. As the final notes of the Naadam songs faded into the night, and families retreated into their yurts, the steppes whispered tales of a culture that, despite its vast conquests, remained deeply connected to its roots. In the vast mosaic of the Mongol Empire's history, not all tales were of conquests and battles. Some were woven with threads of diplomacy, alliances, and friendships that transcended borders and cultures. These tales, often overshadowed by the might of the Mongol war machine, were equally crucial in shaping the empire's destiny. The grand city of Karakoram, with its towering walls and bustling markets, often played host to envoys from distant lands. These diplomats, bearing gifts and letters, came seeking alliances, trade agreements, or simply the favor of the great Khan. One such envoy was Marco Polo, a Venetian merchant who arrived with tales of European cities and the promise of trade. His interactions with the Mongol court, especially with Kublai Khan, were not just about commerce. They were exchanges of ideas, cultures, and knowledge. Marco's descriptions of the Mongol Empire, later penned down in his travelogues, provided the Western world with a glimpse into the heart of Asia. But diplomacy was not just about forging new alliances, it was also about maintaining existing ones. The Mongols, with their vast territories, often found themselves sharing borders with powerful neighbors. The relationship with the Song dynasty of China was one such delicate balance. Through a series of marriages, treaties, and exchanges, the Mongols ensured a relatively peaceful coexistence, paving the way for future conquests. Another significant ally was the Kingdom of Persia. The Mongols, recognizing the cultural and economic importance of Persia, established strong ties. Persian scholars, artists, and traders were given patronage in the Mongol court, leading to a fusion of cultures that enriched both empires. But perhaps the most intriguing of all diplomatic endeavors was the Mongols' relationship with the Christian kingdoms of Europe. Rumors abounded of a mysterious Christian monarch in the east, Prester John, who could be a potential ally against the Muslim caliphates. While these tales were mostly mythical, they opened doors for dialogue. Papal envoys and Mongol generals exchanged letters, discussing potential joint campaigns and shared adversaries. These diplomatic endeavors were not without challenges. Misunderstandings, cultural differences, and conflicting interests often led to tensions. But the Mongols, with their pragmatic approach, often chose dialogue over conflict. They understood that the pen, in many cases, was mightier than the sword. Amidst the grandeur of the Mongol court, where warriors and generals were celebrated, the diplomats, often working behind the scenes, played a crucial role. They bridged gaps, forged friendships, and ensured that the Mongol Empire, while known for its military might, was also recognized for its diplomacy and statesmanship. As the sun set over Karakoram, casting long shadows over the imperial palace, the great Khan often met with his advisors, discussing not just wars but also alliances. In the grand game of empires, where every move mattered, friendships beyond borders were the subtle moves that often changed the course of history. In the intricate dance of power that was the Mongol Empire's diplomacy, there were players who moved in the shadows, unseen yet indispensable. These were the spies, the eyes and ears of the great Khan, gathering information from distant lands and weaving a web of intelligence that spanned continents. The bustling markets of Baghdad, the grand palaces of Constantinople, and the winding alleys of Delhi all whispered secrets. And in their midst, often disguised as traders, monks, or wandering minstrels, Mongol spies listened intently. Their task was not just to gather military intelligence but to understand the political landscapes, cultural nuances, and economic potentials of these regions. One such spy was al-Din, a Persian who had been recruited into the Mongol intelligence network. Fluent in multiple languages and adept at blending in, Aldan's missions took him across the Islamic world. From the caliph's court in Baghdad to the scholarly gatherings in Cordoba, he gathered tidbits of information, piecing together a mosaic of the Muslim world for his Mongol overlords. But the role of a spy was fraught with danger. Capture meant certain death, often after gruesome torture. Every meeting was a game of shadows, every message encoded, and every move calculated. Trust was a luxury these spies could seldom afford. Back in Karakoram, the intelligence gathered was meticulously analyzed. The Khan's advisors, in their grand yurts, pored over maps and scrolls, deciphering messages and predicting enemy moves. The information provided by spies often influenced the Mongols' military strategies, diplomatic overtures, and trade policies. One notable success of the Mongol intelligence was during their campaign against the Khwarezm Empire. Spies, having infiltrated the Khwarezm court, provided invaluable information about the empire's defenses, troop movements, and the morale of its leaders. This intelligence played a crucial role in the Mongols' decisive victories. But the Mongol spies were not just gatherers of information, they were also spreaders of misinformation. They planted rumors, sowed dissent, and created confusion among enemy ranks. Tales of the Mongols' invincibility, their vast numbers, and their supernatural abilities were often the handiwork of these shadowy figures, aiming to demoralize foes even before battles began. As the years passed, the network of Mongol spies grew, becoming more sophisticated. They established safe houses, developed coded languages, and even employed carrier pigeons for swift communication. The vastness of the Mongol Empire, spanning continents, was mirrored by its vast intelligence network, its tendrils reaching every corner of the known world. In the grand narrative of the Mongol Empire, where battles and conquests often took center stage, the silent warriors, the spies, played a role that was subtle yet profound. They were the unsung heroes, their tales of bravery and sacrifice often lost in the annals of history. But in the quiet corridors of Karakoram, their contributions were acknowledged and celebrated. For in the game of empires, where every piece mattered, the spies were the unseen knights, moving stealthily, guarding the empire's secrets, and ensuring its dominance. The Mongol Empire, once a force that struck fear into the hearts of kingdoms and reshaped the world map, began to show signs of weariness. The vast stretches of land, from the chilly steppes of Russia to the warm deserts of Persia, had been united under one banner. But as the years passed, the very vastness that defined the empire became its Achilles heel. Whispers of discontent began in the far reaches of the empire. Local leaders, once loyal to the great Khan, started to feel the weight of distance from Karakoram. The edicts from the capital, often delayed by months, seemed out of touch with the realities on the ground. In the bustling markets of Samarkand, traders spoke of increased banditry on the Silk Road. The once lucrative trade routes, which facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures, were now fraught with danger. The empire's coffers, once overflowing with wealth, began to dwindle. But the cracks were not just external. Within the grand walls of the Mongol palaces, the seeds of dissent were sown. The descendants of Genghis Khan, each ruling vast territories, began to vie for greater power. The unity that had been the empire's strength was now under threat. Ambitions clashed, alliances were forged and broken, and the once cohesive Mongol leadership was fragmented. The Mongol military, the backbone of the empire, was not immune to this decline. The lightning-fast cavalry charges, the coordinated archery volleys, and the discipline that had once defined the Mongol warriors were now things of the past. Battles were lost, territories were ceded, and the aura of invincibility began to fade. Culturally, the empire was at a crossroads. The policy of religious tolerance, which had been a hallmark of Mongol rule, began to waver. Factions within the empire championed their faiths, leading to religious strife and further weakening the empire's fabric. Natural calamities added to the woes. Droughts hit the steppes, affecting the nomadic lifestyle that was at the heart of Mongol identity. Famine followed, and the once prosperous cities and villages faced hardship. As the sun set over the vast Mongol territories, the shadows of decline grew longer. An empire that had once been a beacon of power, culture, and unity was now a labyrinth of challenges. Yet, amidst this decline, the spirit of the Mongols remained undeterred. In the yurts, around the campfires, tales of past glories were told. The elders spoke of Genghis Khan, of his vision, and of the empire's golden days. The younger generation listened, hope kindling in their eyes. The decline of the Mongol Empire was not just the end of an era, it was also the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where the lessons of the past would shape the future, where the tales of glory would inspire new dreams, and where the Mongol spirit, resilient and indomitable, would rise once again. The vast Mongol Empire, which once stretched unbroken from the east to the west, began to fragment, like a tapestry slowly unraveling. The unity that Genghis Khan had so painstakingly built was now under threat, not from external enemies, but from within. In the heart of the empire, Karakoram, tensions simmered. The descendants of Genghis Khan, each with their own ambitions and visions, eyed the throne. The great Khan's legacy was both a blessing and a curse, for while it provided a blueprint for governance, it also sowed the seeds of division. The empire began to fracture into distinct regions, each ruled by a different member of the Mongol royal family. These regions, known as khanates, operated almost like independent kingdoms, each with its own capital, army, and policies. The Golden Horde in the northwest, with its vast steppes and access to Europe, became a dominant force. Ruled by Batu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, it wielded significant influence, often clashing with its southern neighbor, the Chagatai Khanate. The Chagatai Khanate, named after Genghis Khan's second son, spanned the central regions of the empire, its arid deserts contrasting with the fertile plains of the Golden Horde. To the east, the Ilkhanate emerged as a powerhouse. Centered around Persia, it was a melting pot of cultures, where Mongol traditions met Islamic influences. The Ilkhans, while initially adhering to their ancestral Tengriism, eventually embraced Islam, further distinguishing their Khanate from the others. And then there was the Yuan dynasty in China, founded by Kublai Khan, perhaps the most famous of Genghis Khan's grandsons. Under his rule, the Mongol influence fused with Chinese culture, leading to a renaissance of arts, sciences, and trade. But with this fragmentation came challenges. The Khanates, while sharing a common ancestry, often had conflicting interests. Trade disputes, territorial ambitions, and personal rivalries led to skirmishes and, at times, full-blown wars. The Silk Road, once the lifeline of the empire, became a battleground, with each Khanate vying for control. The common people, from traders in Samarkand to farmers in the Chinese heartland, felt the brunt of these divisions. Taxes varied across Khanates, trade became riskier, and the dream of a united Mongol empire seemed distant. Yet, amidst this fragmentation, there were moments of collaboration. Khanates occasionally formed alliances, combining their strengths to quell rebellions or to fend off external threats. These moments, though fleeting, were reminiscent of the empire's golden days, a reminder of the unity that once was. As the years rolled on, the Khanates solidified their identities. The lines on the map, once fluid, became more defined. The Mongol Empire, in its traditional sense, ceased to exist, replaced by a mosaic of Khanates, each with its own story, challenges, and destiny. In the annals of history, The fragmentation of the Mongol Empire into khanates is seen as both an end and a beginning. An end to the dream of a united empire, but the beginning of new narratives, cultures, and legacies that would shape the world for centuries to come. In the heart of the vast Mongolian steppes, where the winds whispered ancient tales and the horizon stretched endlessly, stood a monument of reverence and remembrance, the mausoleum of Genghis Khan. It was not just a structure of stone and wood, but a testament to the legacy of a leader who had once changed the course of history. The mausoleum, grand in its design, was adorned with intricate carvings that told the story of the great Khan's life. From his humble beginnings as a young boy named Temujin to his rise as the leader of the Mongol Empire, each carving was a chapter from his life. Visitors, from distant lands and neighboring villages, walked these halls in awe, their footsteps echoing with respect. At the heart of the mausoleum was the sacred chamber, where the spirit of Genghis Khan was believed to reside. While the exact location of his final resting place remains a mystery, this chamber was a symbolic representation, a place for reflection and homage. A golden statue of the Khan, seated on his horse, dominated the chamber, its eyes gazing into the distance, as if looking over his empire. Every year, during the Naadam festival, the mausoleum became the epicenter of celebrations. Tributes poured in from all corners of the former empire. Khanates, despite their differences, united in their reverence for the great Khan. Warriors performed traditional dances, poets recited verses in his honor, and shamans invoked his spirit, seeking blessings. But the tributes were not limited to grand ceremonies. Travelers, upon crossing the steppes, often left offerings at the mausoleum. Simple tokens like a tuft of horsehair, a piece of silk, or a handwritten note, each carrying a personal message of gratitude, respect, or hope. Stories of Genghis Khan's wisdom, bravery, and vision were passed down through generations. In the yurts, around roaring campfires, elders narrated tales of his exploits, of battles won, of alliances forged, and of an empire built against all odds. These tales, while filled with drama and suspense, also carried lessons of leadership, diplomacy, and perseverance. Artists, too, paid their tributes. Paintings depicting the Khan's life adorned the walls of palaces and monasteries. Ballads sung in his honor resonated in the bazaars and caravanserais. And scholars, in their manuscripts, chronicled his achievements, ensuring that his legacy lived on in the pages of history. As the sun set over the mausoleum, casting a golden hue on its walls, the spirit of Genghis Khan seemed to come alive. The winds carried his whispers, the steppes echoed with his footsteps, and the vast Mongolian sky, with its myriad stars, seemed to tell the tale of a leader who, from the humblest of beginnings, dreamt of the stars and reached them. In the ever-changing tapestry of history, where empires rise and fall, and leaders come and go, Genghis Khan's legacy stands tall, immortalized in stone, song, and story. And the mausoleum, in its silent majesty, stands as a beacon, reminding the world of a leader who once was and will forever be. In the annals of history, few names evoke as much awe and reverence as Genghis Khan. While his physical presence had long vanished from the world, his spirit, his legacy, and his legend lived on, undiminished by the sands of time. Across the vast stretches of the Mongolian steppes, where the wind sang ancient lullabies and the horizon kissed the heavens, children grew up hearing tales of the great Khan. They learned of his unmatched bravery, his boundless vision, and his unwavering determination. In their games, they emulated his battles, their young voices echoing with the war cries of a bygone era. But the legend of Genghis Khan was not confined to Mongolia. From the bustling bazaars of Persia to the scholarly halls of Europe, his tales were recounted with a mix of admiration, curiosity, and sometimes fear. Travelers, merchants, and emissaries shared stories of the vast empire he built, of cities that bowed to his might, and of the intricate network of trade routes he established. In the realm of arts, Genghis Khan's influence was profound. Poets penned verses celebrating his conquests. Painters, with deft strokes, captured his likeness on canvases, portraying him as both a fierce warrior and a wise ruler. Musicians composed ballads, their melodies resonating with the rhythms of the Mongol heartland. As centuries passed, the line between fact and fiction began to blur. Myths surrounding Genghis Khan grew. Tales of his supernatural abilities, of his encounters with mystical creatures, and of treasures he left behind, added layers to his legend. Treasure hunters and adventurers set out on quests, hoping to find relics from his era, their journeys fueled by tales of hidden cities and golden tombs. Modern Mongolia, while embracing the future, held Genghis Khan close to its heart. His face adorned currency notes, statues in his honor dotted city squares, and national holidays celebrated his life and achievements. The annual Naadam festival, with its display of traditional Mongolian sports, was a vibrant tribute to the era of the Khan. Educational institutions, recognizing the importance of preserving this legacy, introduced curricula that delved deep into his life. Scholars from around the world congregated in Mongolia, sifting through ancient manuscripts, hoping to uncover more about the enigmatic leader. But perhaps the most poignant tribute to Genghis Khan was the reverence with which ordinary Mongolians remembered him. In their daily lives, in their customs, and in their values, the essence of the Khan was palpable. Elders, looking into the eyes of the young, often remarked, "The spirit of the Khan lives on." As night descended upon the steppes, and a blanket of stars enveloped the sky, one could almost hear the distant gallop of horses, the murmurs of a vast army, and the commanding voice of Genghis Khan. In that serene silence, it became evident that legends, especially those as enduring as the Khan's, never truly die. They live on, in hearts, in stories, and in the very soul of the land.